Welcome into the Trevor Staub Show, episode number 18. Today we've got a great guest. We've got Double G, Garrett Gurthie, the 2022 Beaver State Fling champion. We're going to talk to him about that event, a little bit about the Portland Open, and just some other things he's got going on this season and how he's feeling. Let's hop right into it. All right, and we're here now with our guest for the show today. We have the 2022 Beaver State Fling champion, Garrett Gurthie. Thanks so much for joining the show, Garrett.
Yeah, glad to be here finally.
Absolutely, man. So I want to get into Beaver State Fling, but I think first to tell the whole story, we kind of have to backtrack to the Portland Open because that's kind of where all these events kind of started. You played a great event in Portland. It came down to the last hole with you and Simon. Unfortunately, you fell just a little bit short. After having that difficult result and that tough finish there, how difficult is it for you to reset your mental game and kind of prepare for the next event?
It kind of gave me the will to proceed for this next event because giving myself a chance and not being in that scenario in a long time, in a couple seasons, I felt like I knew what I was doing again, and I felt like I had full control of my game. And I feel like I rushed one shot the last tournament, and that was that sidearm on the last approach there where me and Simon were pinned up. So I learned from it, and I told myself I'm going to give myself a chance the next week if I keep my putting game up. And every day I've continued to get some reps in, and no excuses. Go after the putt because that's where the money is to be made. Is on the course. Is every stroke matters. So the momentum carried into Beaver State Fling quite nicely, being that it's my favorite place on earth to play disc golf. Just the setting, the atmosphere, the nature, everything about the place. I feel like I'm a rainy day golfer. So growing up in Florida, I had plenty of days where I got to play in the rain. So I feel like a lot of people make excuses in the rain, and I just kind of take it all in, embrace it, and the caddy skills paid off with my friend Jim Inman. So all that worked to my favor this weekend, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely. And following that event, did you feel any extra urgency to kind of have a bounce back week going into one of your favorite courses? Did you really feel like it was going to be your big opportunity, or were you kind of just taking it as any other event?
I mean, the past couple tournaments, I've kind of had a focus change on the course. So I feel like if I had the same focus as I did last week, there should be no reason why I come up short this week. And I feel like I'm at a point in my game that each week I have a chance to give myself a place first, second, or third. So
Definitely.
I'm pretty stoked about that.
And with the Milo courses, you obviously have mentioned multiple times that you really enjoy them. They're some of your favorites. What is it about those courses that you enjoy in particular? Do you feel that it sets up to your game really well, or is it just the atmosphere that you really like to take in there?
Just here on our road trip, I was talking to Jessica that I feel like the courses suit my game really well, where the par fours are in my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Where I land the disc, it's making it 300 foot or less par three from there to get up and down. And it shows I do have some smooth finesse game, and that's where it comes into play on the par fours, par fives, where you give yourself an opportunity and stay away from the bogeys, which I happen to do this weekend.
Certainly, yeah. And I was just about to mention, I can understand why you like the courses so much for your game when you did something that some people might not realize, and something pretty unheard of, which is a bogey-free 54 holes of golf during the Beaver State Fling. Do you remember ever having any performance like that in a tournament? Where would you rank this amongst the tournaments that you've played in as far as a performance that you put down? Because 54 straight holes, no bogeys, it's pretty incredible.
I honestly can't remember whenever I've done this, but maybe on some par three courses that I played back in the day that weren't very difficult. But with the courses that we're challenged with these days, I feel like going bogey free was definitely a step in the right direction as far as my mindset and taking that motivation to the next level and trying to use it for the next tournament at the Preserve.
Definitely, definitely. So as you're making your way down the stretch of the Beaver State Fling, obviously you had a little bit of lead to play with, but you had some competitors, Joel Freeman being one of them, kind of nipping at your heels a little bit. It was certainly not a runaway event, even though you were playing solid. You had people on your tail. as you were moving your way down the stretch, was there any point where you kind of started thinking about what happened at Portland? Did it sneak into your head at all, or were you able to kind of stay locked in the moment?
I feel like I wanted to stay locked into the moment, being that I had Simon carry the weight last weekend, and he pushed me so hard. I felt like I had what it takes this weekend, and at no point I felt like I was going to let this one go. I know that Corey Ellis was giving it a run. I honestly didn't know Joel Freeman had aced until hole 16, and I didn't know
Mm.
he tied it up with me at that point, even though he was holes ahead. But all I knew was my good friend Josh tells me just focus on you and the shot in front of you, and that's what I did. So I didn't let anything get to me. I wanted to make sure that I stayed in full control, and the putt was working. I know I got to 7 under, and I kind of went par golf from there on out, and they had a chance to kind of scoop a couple there, but having a three-stroke buffer going into the last hole, well, two on Joel, three on Corey, I felt pretty good about it.
Absolutely. And kind of talking about the mental game, and you mentioned this earlier, talking about being a rainy day player. The weather is such an interesting factor in disc golf because certain players seem to get devastated by it. And in Oregon, it's always going to be unpredictable. There's going to be lots of inclement weather. How does the weather, you said, you kind of grew up with it, but does it ever really get in your head? And do you adjust your strategy or mindset at all to deal with it? Or is it just kind of something that you just play through and keep your attitude, where it needs to be?
I always try to keep the attitude where it needs to be. I feel like growing up playing darts a lot, I was taught to don't take your eye off the target and don't don't shake your head when you miss a shot. Stay focused on what you need to do, and those are some of the keys that I did. And I wanted to stay focused the whole time. And um, sorry about that. What can you touch base on the question again?
Yeah,
I had someone come up to me.
you're good. I was just wondering, with when the weather comes into play, is that something that you ever would change your mindset to deal with it, or is it something where you're able to just kind of play your normal game?
Yeah. So most of the time, I play my normal game, keep my drivers dry, and if the rain's coming down steadily, I like to putt with my putters soaking wet rather than trying to
Yeah,
dry them off every time and having the little bit of raindrop be the effect of you missing your putt. Getting the reps in Florida back in the day, I was able to putt with putters when they were wet, and I feel like it kind of comes off more predictable than not the other way whenever you get maybe one raindrop on your thumb or something like that.
yeah. I've actually heard a lot about. I've heard different opinions on sort of how to play disc golf in the rain, especially with the putters. I've also been somebody who likes to keep them wet because I agree. I don't want to have a little bit of water, which is almost inevitable. Do you find that out on tour is that kind of the popular strategy, or are there a lot of players who really try to keep their putters dry?
Uh, I want to say I was talking to James Conrad during the round we played together, and I want to say he does the same thing. He likes to putt with his putters either fully wet or fully dry, one of the two. And if it's coming down pretty heavily, I'm pretty sure I would say at least 30 to 40% of the pros might putt with wet putters, and they might run
Yeah.
across the same problem as me. Is trying to get the disc dry is really really hard when you're using your putter on every hole. When you can kind of switch a range of drivers around and still be okay.
Definitely, definitely. So this was kind of your first big win since the main state championships back in 2020. Being back on that winner's podium, would you say you felt relief, or is this something that you kind of knew was coming eventually and it was just a matter of time?
Um, Definitely a relief and emotional at the same time. I know with the amount of competitors that are coming out to the table these days and laying down some really awesome scores, it's been really hard to keep up with. And, what blows my mind today is like we got Gannon Burr, I want to say he's 16, 17 years old, and
Mhm.
he's hitting top 10 each weekend. And he's only been in this sport for so long in the pro level. So this kid's in the making, and nothing but good things about these young cats making moves out here. They're pushing us, which I've been pro since I was 13.
Yeah.
Um, I'm 32 now, and it's every bit of tough to make a win these days. So any bit of
Yeah.
wins, I'm gonna take them all in.
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel that being on the like a win on the tour these days with how much more difficult it's gotten, how many more talented players have joined, does it feel that much more special to be able to win on this tour that is just super powered at this point?
100%. I can't. I always go back and think like, we're playing with the best of the best of the people in the world, and competing with these people is quite a treat to look back at. When we got coverage of all this, I can say, I got my win against, Paul, or, Corey Ellis, or Joel Freeman, my teammate. These are all great, fierce competitors that have been placing really well um, out here. Excuse me, I just hit my phone on the tour. So to be able to capture a win with these guys will be one I'll always remember, especially at Beaver State Fling, my favorite course on earth, Milo.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, especially these past three events, looking over your season, as a whole, these past three events, as you mentioned before, your putting has really improved drastically. If you look at your tour averages in just the last three events, you've really risen up the rankings. Have you made any changes to your putt, or have you just kind of found a new confidence on the putting green as of late?
I found a new confidence, and I felt like I struggled on my grip first part of the season. And I don't want to go too much into detail, but I feel like I changed my grip a little bit, and I feel like that was the change I needed. That I was a tick off, and I just wasn't really thinking about it. I thought I was just having a off day for putting for a couple months, but
Yeah.
I feel like I tuck my finger a little bit better now, my index finger around the putter, and I got a lot more feel and a lot more pop from Circle Two, and I feel like that's where I'm generating enough power to make the putts from Circle Two rather than stand still approaching it. From I was doing that the first part of the season instead of jump putting or anything, and
Hmm.
finally I said I got to change something. I got to change something, and a couple days at the putting green with my disc dots and a range of switching the grip around, and I was locked.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the change has definitely been working for you, obviously. But another thing to mention is, you have three top 10 finishes already this year, which matches your total from last season. Clearly, the putting has been a big factor that has to do with that. But do you think there's any other parts of your game that have been clicking that kind of have changed from last season to this season, or is it really just the putting?
I think the putting and the focus level. I think at times we can all find ourselves out on the course just saying, "What am I doing?" Or I, I don't even remember what I did there. Stuff like that. Um, I find myself dialed in and knowing exactly what I want to do each and every shot. And
Yeah,
with that being said, I don't remember doing that the first part of the season. And with me getting that figured out, each tournament I got to come forward, I'll remember this, and it's beating in my head now to focus on every shot and don't give up. Always keep fighting to the end and minimize the bogey strokes and take the highest percentage shots.
definitely, definitely. So now that you found yourself on a bit of a hot streak here with two, really good finishes back to back, do you feel like you've raised your standards for the rest of the season, or are you kind of just keeping a level head about it? What does that kind of do to your mental game when you realize that you're kind of on a really good streak?
A little bit of both. I'm gonna always have the same mental game and try to always stay positive on that side. But I will raise my bar now that I've competed well the past couple of tournaments, and we'll try to hold on to that. And any top 10 finish for me here on out is a good goal for me. I can't be too greedy, but I'd like to give myself a couple more chances at an Elite Series win. So
Definitely.
the Silver Series was nice, but we're
Yeah,
always shooting for the Elite, Majors, all the big ones.
of course, of
USDGC,
course.
I'm coming for you. That's the one I
Yeah.
want.
USDGC, would you say that's number one of the tournaments that you want to win?
I mean, everyone would love to win a world championship, but being that USDGC is at solid ground each year,
Mm-hmm.
that's the one I want more than anything. And to do it right in front of Innova, what could make a better story? So
Right.
that would be my goal in life, is to do one for them there on the home turf. Second would be, world championship. I know some
Sure.
people might feel like that's backwards, but That's how I feel about that place.
No, I would completely agree. I think you can't argue with the prestige that USGC carries and being at the same course each year and knowing how tough it is to win there. I think there's something special about tapping out on that 18th green. It's certainly a pretty cool tournament to win.
For
Um,
sure.
but speaking of top tens, like you were mentioning, you actually just snuck into the top 10 in the UDisc World Rankings. Which is a very prestigious spot to be in. Getting into that top 10 is harder now than ever. Thinking about that and kind of looking at where you're at right now, coming off of the win, do you feel like you're playing at the highest level now compared to any other point in your career?
I think so. I think at a point in my career, I was at 1,032 or 1,034, but only briefly. And I was just at 1,026, and my bump got rated 1,030 today. So I think I'm back where I want to be, and hopefully we're on the rise and not stopping. I want to get to
Yeah.
where these guys are at 1,048, 1,050, whatever it takes. I'm putting in
Yeah.
the work.
Yeah, well, you're certainly starting to catch them. I wanted to talk a little bit with you about kind of the roots of your disc golf game because I think a lot of people probably don't realize that you grew up playing disc golf from a very young age. The story goes that you were literally teething on discs as a young kid. Talk a little bit about like what the disc golf life looked for you like in your family growing up.
Yeah, so growing up with my family, it was a little expensive, but that's kind of why we found disc golf was it was fairly inexpensive to play the sport. We all had a few discs. My dad played with his work buddies, and we would always get out to the course and play when Dad would go out. And after that, we'd always go to have lunch right up the road at Hogan's Heroes and come back for more disc golf. And that led to moving really close to the disc golf course where we lived probably 100 feet from hole two. And
Nice.
I could literally lay on my bed in my room and open up my window and throw a flick 150 feet to hole one's
Wow.
basket. So that
Wow.
was literally how close I could throw a disc to the course at Northside Park in Gainesville, Florida. So growing up with my brothers, it was very competitive, and they my brothers always pushed me to the next level because they were always better than me. And we had the handicap leagues that we got to compete week in, week out. So that was a good challenge for us to get our game together. And after handicap leagues, we started competing in disc golf tournaments around the Fabulous Florida Tour. And that was about 20 to 25 tournaments a year. And I traveled with a good friend of mine, Sean Harrigan, to most of these tournaments when I started excelling. When my brother Evan and brother Ben started having full-time jobs, I was still young enough to miss some days of school to go compete in some of these tournaments from the age of 13 and on. So I want to say I beat my buddy Ken Climo the first time at the age of 15 years old in a tournament, my pro
Wow.
tournament in Sarasota, Florida. He had me by two going into the last round, and I beat him by three that round to win by one. And I remember a lot of butt whoopings to King Climo and Johnny McRae, so I got to brag about one or two here and there. But
Absolutely, definitely. Well, do you feel like, and with your brothers, because I know I'm sure it was super competitive having brothers playing disc golf. Like, do you have like the ultimate bragging rights now that like you were kind of the one to make it out on the tour?
yeah, but it's not much bragging rights. I love my family, and they support me 100% and back me, and it's never been like that since I've hit the road because it's been full support. They know it's really hard to make it out here.
Yeah,
Evans toured with me for a year and had an ultimate blast with my brother traveling with him, seeing the country and helping me drive across country, and uh, they're just a great family to be around, and the support system's unreal. They're always hitting me up every weekend, shooting me good luck, and it's never been about bragging about this or that. We've always been a support system.
that's awesome, and it certainly makes it easier out there on tour having that support system. And I think it's so cool, like getting to grow up in a disc golf family, especially back then when the game was a lot smaller. There really wasn't a lot of situations like that, and being in Climo stomping grounds, and
Hmm.
that's certainly an awesome experience. One thing I kind of found interesting about your career is that, you played a pretty busy schedule for most of the years leading up to 2015, but then from 2015 to 2018, you kind of slowed down, only playing a few events a year before getting back into it. What was the decision that led to slowing things down, and then what got you back out on the tour and fully into disc golf?
Well, the first time I was out on the road, I kind of got burnt out from traveling a little bit, and it was more of a grind back then than it is now.
Certainly.
So, with that being said, I went home. I got two jobs, and just kept working full-time jobs, and um, took a little hiatus from the sport, and didn't really watch much because I was working two jobs, and some life things came in and slowed things down a little bit. And once the Disc Golf Pro Tour came to Jacksonville, Florida, where the Disc Golf Pro Tour finale was at New World Sports Complex, I seen the camera crews that came out, and I wanted to be back part of it. And Jessica helped inspire me to get back on the road and telling me all good things that are happening. And boom, next thing you know, we got the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I'm back on it. I won the Masters Cup.
Yeah.
I had a couple of nice wins in between, and now this one, the Beaver State Fling, my favorite tournament in the whole wide world, or my favorite courses, I should say. To capture that win is just quite amazing. I'm still like letting it all set in right now.
Yeah, and it's so cool that you kind of grew up in the sport, but it was so much smaller back then. But now you've been able to get back on tour without really skipping a beat, and really get to experience the full growth that disc golf has had in that time. And now you get to live out a much better disc golf touring experience than it used to be. And I'm sure that's just surreal, getting to live that out. I'm sure for you it's probably just exciting to be out there on tour more than anything.
100%. It's exciting. We get to see our buddies week in, week out, and we get to hang out all across the country, which most people don't get to do. And um, you know, I wouldn't trade this for anything. This is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about, and you're wearing the hat right now, is obviously the Craft Jerky Company. It's really been growing a lot of popularity, especially among the disc golf community. Talk a little bit about how the jerky business all started, and how that got going in the first place.
well, COVID season sparked a lot of attention for us, which we didn't know might be in the future. So, me and a couple friends, Ted and Jim, got together, and uh, this is the brief story. And Ted really enjoyed my jerky, and he said, "Why isn't this on the market yet?" And he says, "We need to get this out there."
Yeah.
So during the COVID season, after Waco, we had to go home, and we went to the drawing board, and uh, Ted and Jim got things in the making to help make us legitimate, and we started making jerky. We got 7 flavors now. Um, I mean, I got to thank Ted and Jim real quick. It's just kind of been on my mind. They've been
Absolutely.
a real big support system for me. He's always on my butt, but it's for the good, and I appreciate that. Uh, Ted and Jim have been very inspirational to me, and they've taught me a lot with the company and how to work things and how to be genuine. And I think they've made me a better person. Um, I know we got off topic there a little bit,
No,
but I
you're
just wanted
good.
to give them a little plug because I really do
Absolutely.
look up to them, and they've helped me pursue my dream of making Double G Craft Jerky come to market in the disc golf world.
Yeah, well, it's certainly been going well. I've had it; it's delicious. But I kind of wanted to get your power rankings. We love doing power rankings on the show, so I want your top three jerky flavors.
My number one, hands down, would be the Smash Crack Pepper.
Okay.
And, my number two would have to be the Hot Boom,
All right. All
and
right.
my three would be the Nate Sexton Sweet and Spicy.
Okay. Well, you've everybody listening, you've heard it. Those are the top three. You're
The
gonna have to.
fourth, the fourth, I'm going to give a little plug to would be
Okay.
the Paul Macbeth barbecue for sure.
I've had that one. I've had that
Yeah.
one. That one is very solid. But yeah, you gotta if you haven't checked it out already, the Double G jerky is super good. A lot of yummy flavors. But thanks a bunch, Garrett, for joining the show. Glad to have
Yep.
you on. You've been on an awesome stretch of disc golf lately, and we hope to see it continue.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to let the people know. I want them to keep an eye out for the vegans, or the vegans keep an eye out on the plant-based jerky coming soon. We have Eagle representing that, and we can't wait for everyone to get their hands on it coming soon. We might be doing some pre-orders. I won't get into too much details, but
All
stay
right.
tuned. Get yourself some disc dots. Where's my camera? Get some disc dots. Throw them on the chains. Get your putting practice in. The results will pay off. I promise. Get them.
Awesome.
They even
Awesome.
got glow in the dark ones if you want to practice at night.
Oh, heck yeah. Sweet. Thanks bunch, Garrett.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
All right, and thanks again to Garrett for joining the show. It was great hearing from him. It seems like he's got a lot of confidence in his game right now, and he's certainly playing some very hot disc golf at the moment. So it'll be exciting to see what he's got going the rest of the season. Make sure you're here again next Thursday for another great episode. But until then, we'll see you.